Hi, it's Danielle. This is my perfume journal where I document my love of perfume. So, in the last couple of weeks, I have gotten a big influx of new subscribers and viewers thanks to my new friend Nikki. She is the best, so generous, so wonderful. So, if you wandered over here from Nikki's channel, welcome. I am super glad you're here and thanks for joining me here. So, with a whole bunch of new subscribers, I thought it might be fun to kind of like reintroduce myself here and make a get to know you or get to know me video. And to do this, I'm going to take inspiration from the wonderful Annie G, who just made a similar video that I really loved, kind of tracing her path through scents that remind her both literally and figuratively of pivotal times in her life. So thank you, Annie, for the inspiration to make this video. And as a certified card carrying Gen Xer, I will have to frame this video a little bit through decades since my perfume obsession started all the way back in the 1970s. All right, so picture it. It's the early 1970s. A little girl, spoiler alert, it's me, wanders into her grandmother's bedroom to look for a stick of double mint gum. There was always one sitting out on the dresser next to her purse. And maybe while I was in there, I would just like try on her dress shoes for fun. But wait, what is this? This hourglass shaped bottle tied at the waist with a gold bow, filled with some kind of amber liquid. Let me pull off the cap and have a little sniff. This was my first introduction to perfume, and you have to know what it was. It was Youth Dew. I was instantly mesmerized by this spicy, ambery liquid right from the jump, and that was the bottle that started it all. Every chance I got, I would step into my grandmother's bedroom and I would inhale her bottle of Youth Dew. In their bathroom, my grandfather had a bottle of Old Spice under the sink in the cupboard next to all of the other great smelling things. The Noxzema, the oil of Olay that my grandmother put on her face every day of her life, and she lived to be 96. The Dove soap, the Pond's cold cream, all of those scents are part of my earliest and most vivid memories. And it would not be unusual to find me as a kid sitting on the floor of their bathroom, basically huffing cosmetics rather than like playing outside with all of the other kids. I had my nose on everything. My mom had a bottle of Halston. My dad had a bottle of Aramis. Those are the perfumes that everyone was wearing. This was the 1970s version of Hype. So this is where my love for green chypre perfumes and woody masculines started at a very early age with the two signature scents that my parents wore. As for me, my first perfumes, little pins with solid perfume from Avon, probably filled with sweet honesty. I definitely remember having a little snowman pin that would sit on my winter coat, and when you opened it up like a locket, there was a little pomade inside, and it was an Avon scented perfume. A couple of years later, I got my very own first bottle of perfume, and of course, that was Love's Baby Soft. If you were a little girl growing up in the 1970s, this was probably your first perfume too. And I have to say that even today, my most favorite perfumes are the powdery florals, and it's probably because of Love's Baby Soft. I think I love them so much because there is like comfort in this profile. It brings me back to my childhood, a time when I felt totally safe, totally happy. And so Love's Baby Soft was the gateway to my love for powdery florals. Cut to the 1980s. So my little 70s bowl haircut turned into an asymmetric bob, one side cut really short, the other side probably permed with the evidence of like a sun-in experiment in my bangs. Like most other kids in the 1980s, without fail, you could find us at the mall almost every weekend. We were definitely mall rats. We would be flipping through the records at the record store. We would be sneaking into the black light back room at Spencer's. If you grew up in the US, you know what I'm talking about. We would be examining oversized neon earrings at Claire's. And we would most definitely be hanging around the perfume counters at the department stores. So my best friend wore Giorgio. I longed for Giorgio. I wanted it so badly. It was like a status symbol of status that my family definitely did not have, and I certainly hadn't earned. So that would be the perfume that I enjoyed at sleepovers or if I borrowed my best friend's wool winter coat. This is the biggest yellow floral you've ever smelled. It's a little bit sweet, a little bit spicy, tuberose, ylang ylang. It feels very golden. It feels very sparkly. It feels very sunny, but it is also not shy. It is a very, very bold and loud perfume. And probably next to Poison, the most hyped perfume of the 1980s. Obsession was everywhere. It was decadent. It was far too decadent and far too grown up for a group of early teens. But what did we know? It's a very sweet, very resinous amber, certainly one of the mainstays of the 1980s. These were the perfumes that were in the magazines, they were on display, they were in the commercials. We all wore Liz Claiborne in the primary color triangle. I had the red triangle, just like the one you see here. That was the smell of our high school years in the 1980s. So, this was the decade when Pandora's box opened and the perfume collecting really began for me. I would smell something amazing at the mall or on a friend, and I would have tunnel vision. I had to find it, I had to save for it, ask for it as a gift. I was obsessed with scent. All of my friends had a signature scent or two, but that just did not feel like enough for me. Not out of compulsion to own them, but out of a true sheer fascination with the moods, the emotions, the stories, the occasions that perfume belonged to. On my own dresser was Anais Anais, Isatis, Lauren, and my all-time favorite perfume still to this day, Nikki de Saint Phalle. I wanted YSL's Paris desperately. My mom and I shared Beautiful, Poison, Opium, Vanderbilt, K de Crizia, Tatiana by Diane von Furstenberg. And I look back and I wonder, where did these bottles even come from? Who was purchasing them? I had an after school job, so I'm sure that I bought some of them with my own savings. I'm sure that I got some as birthday gifts and Christmas gifts. Perfume was always, always, always at the top of my wish list. I think about how my parents must have had to save too, because we were a family of very modest means, so I'm sure it was a sacrifice for them to treat me to these bottles. So then in the late 80s, I went off to college with my firm fragrance foundation under me, and I definitely spent a good portion of my undergraduate years spraying myself with Uninhibited from Cher, my first celebrity perfume, Alfred Sung, and Yope. And my best friend in college wore Fendi. And last year I treated myself to this secondhand partial because it always, always, always reminds me of her. In college, I worked 3 jobs, so I'm sure I scraped together enough to splurge on a bottle or two. And I still find it absolutely hilarious that these were the perfumes of my youth. This is like typical Gen X. We were always forced to grow up too fast, too soon. Even our perfumes made us older than we were. So, in the very early 90s, I graduated college and went straight on to grad school. This is when I really started to understand what it meant to live paycheck to paycheck. And this is also when I started to go into debt. The perfumes took a backseat to real life at this point, but like anyone living paycheck to paycheck, we sometimes treat ourselves to something special. And for me, that special treat would always be perfume. I did not travel, I did not buy clothing. I would buy myself a bottle of perfume. So I remember wearing the Donna Karan Black Swan, and I also remember wearing Alfred Sung Pure. But other than that, they were the only perfumes I'd accumulated in my grad school years. And that's fine and dandy because I certainly had a wealth of fabulous, fabulous perfumes from the 70s and 80s in my library to keep me going and hold me over for a good long time. I would still go to the store and sniff away, but I did not buy. And my only real regret about that decade is that I hadn't started keeping a perfume journal. So I can only imagine the amazing scents that I sampled, but I just can't remember them anymore. So after grad school, I started my career and I chose one of the lowest paying professions anyone can choose. So perfume again took a back seat. So I just dug in, focused on my career, focused on my work, doing a good job, trying to keep my head above water. Sometime in the late 90s, a bottle of Clinique Happy joined my world, and that was really about it for a whole decade. I might have had a Bath and Body Works spray or two along the way, but as far as perfumes go, Happy was it for a long, long time. And this is probably the first perfume that I can actually call a signature scent because I did wear it just about every day. So on I went for many, many years wearing Happy, wearing all of my old perfumes, maybe getting to wear a sample from a perfume counter to shake things up, buying absolutely nothing. I could barely pay my bills, let alone buy perfume. And then in the early 2000s, two very fabulous things happened to me. I met my husband and I discovered Burberry Brit. I loved this guy and I loved this perfume instantly. I could not afford the bottle, but I bought it anyway. The husband and the perfume are both decisions I will never regret. I love them both more today than I did when I first discovered them. And somewhere along the line, we decided to get hitched. We eloped down to the courthouse and we texted all of our friends and family, hey, guess what, guys? We just got married. I don't even remember what perfume I wore that day, but if I had to wager a guess, I would say it was probably Burberry Brit. So before I knew it, a whole decade went by, and then I took a little leap and I got a promotion at work. And so I decided it was finally time to treat myself to a special bottle of perfume. So I marched myself right to the Chanel counter at the mall. I spent probably more than an hour annoying the sales associate with my questions, with my request for another blotter, with my sincere exclamations of, okay, this is the one, only to change my mind a minute later and say, wait, let me smell that green one more time. This was a big decision for me. I am pretty sure I didn't even understand the magnitude of this purchase. It was a pivotal moment because it was the first time I actually saw a more secure financial future for myself. So I handed over my credit card and I left with a bottle of Chanel Chance Otandra. And it was the perfect perfume to choose for that point in my life. It's an optimistic, happy, fresh, pink, fruity floral by Chanel. I never thought I'd own a bottle of Chanel perfume, but here I was with bag in hand. But I have to say, looking back, I'm not sure that this was a good thing or a bad thing. This promotion definitely led me to a path of greater financial security, but it also came with much harder and much, much more stressful work. And later in my life, that would lead to a pretty major health crisis. So, in perfume terms, the doors that open to a bottle of Chanel perfume may not always be the best doors to walk through. Now, I don't live my life with regrets or woulda, shoulda, couldas, but I also wonder if moving up to achieve a better sense of financial security, if it was really worth it. In other words, there are plenty of good, affordable perfumes out there. Fast forward just a few more years, we moved cities. We actually moved back to my hometown as we started approaching those years, that like odd stage in life where the child starts to worry about the parent, like the parent has always worried about the child. So here we are back at home, and what should turn up but the old key to Pandora's perfume box that I found in the 80s. It said, unlock me. Click on YouTube, click on Instagram, discover perfume databases and blogs, learn about discounters in the secondhand market. And that's exactly what I did. And that led me to a discovery set by a brand new niche house called Ellis Brooklyn. It looked like a little library of books, and I thought, well, that's cool, that's different. So I ordered the discovery set, and that was my introduction to what at the time was considered a niche brand, long before their many bottles stood on the shelves of Sephora. For me, Myth was the standout perfume. It felt very much like where I was at that stage of life. Very mature, some wisdom behind me, but lots still to learn ahead. A very classic musky jasmine perfume, kind of like a crisp white shirt kind of a scent, and it just sort of felt like it fit me at the time. I've also told this story on my channel before, having completely immersed myself in the world of perfume online. I saw a lot of buzz about another brand that was just sort of starting to emerge, and that was Zoologist. And so I bought myself a discovery set of every single perfume that they had in the line at the time. And I thought they were all horrible, disgusting. So I threw them in the garbage. And now I am really kicking myself because they were all original formulations of their line of perfumes. And I would love to have the opportunity to go back and re-smell those over again. But again, can't live life with regrets. No woulda, shoulda, couldas, but that was a big mistake. It was also at this time that my husband and I started to do a lot more traveling. We were finally financially secure enough to be able to explore this interest that we both shared together. And so my collection became peppered with scented souvenirs. The first one was this very bottle of Blackberry and Bay that I purchased at the Jo Malone Boutique in London. That tart, mouth-puckering blackberry and cassis note, the green aromatic bay leaf, with just a hint of woodiness and muskiness. Perfumes started to become attachments for me to beautiful places that my husband and I visited together, where we made some of our best memories as a couple and with family and friends. And then the pandemic hit, and then a massive and unexpected health crisis for me. This all forced me to slow down, refocus my energies, and find peace in cozy hobbies. I have always loved cozy hobbies. Journaling, making jewelry, knitting. My basement is like a graveyard of cozy hobby paraphernalia. So instead of completely running myself ragged all the time, I started to focus back on my health. I started walking, I started writing again, and that is when I started making creative content on social media. I met so many wonderful people this way. The fragrance community was absolutely booming at this time. Perfume became a way of connecting, of finding the common threads that weave us together across miles, across cultures, across generations, life experiences. And this is when perfume began to take on even more meaning in my life as it became a doorway to the human connection at a time when the human connection seems more important than ever. And it was through these wonderful connections that I discovered perfumes like Nightingale, a modern vintage chypre that focuses on plum blossom, Bois Farine, a perfume that smells like finely milled flour, Stash, the most glorious woody perfume ever made by Sarah Jessica Parker, Jungle L'Elephant, this big, thundering, spicy beast with a hint of tropical mango underneath it all, and Gloam by Aesop, this weirdo mimosa perfume that I absolutely fell in love with. So all of these perfumes now remind me of the people who have been geeking out with me over smells for the last several years, and I love them for that. So here we are, caught up to today, where I feel like my perfume collection and my perfume collecting is a reflection of exactly where I am at this point in life. Postmenopausal, end career, don't give a crap what other people think anymore, seeking peace and ease and simplicity. I am not looking to accomplish anything new. I am not chasing dollar signs or ladders to climb. A lot of my favorite perfumes right now kind of reflect that mindset. I frequently reach for Prada's Infusion de Riz, a clean, calm, airy iris, plain, no accoutrements, nothing fancy about it, just a simple, effective composition that just always makes me happy. Shalimar L'Essence, a warm, smooth, cozy take on a classic amber with lots of delicious vanilla. Chanel No. 5 Eau Premiere, a modern take on the elegant, aldehydic, soapy, clean floral. Eau Moheli by Diptyque, 3 notes, ylang ylang, ginger, vetiver, bright and zingy. Melograno from Santa Maria Novella, clean, soapy with a little bit of a mossy undertone. Simplicity is the key. I want a simple life and simple scents to go with it. And so you can see for the last 55 plus years, I have had a very happy youth, a very satisfying adult life, work, friends, family, interests, some challenges along the way. Don't we all have those? But all of the pivotal times in my life have most certainly been punctuated by scents, and not just perfumes. I have such strong scent memories of my grandmother's spaghetti sauce cooking on the stove every Sunday. Gee, Your Hair Smells Terrific shampoo in the 1970s. The smell of my cat's paws, chlorine and rosemary bushes and jet fuel. All of these scents live not only in my olfactory receptors, but also in my memories. As for the scented me of today, I would say I am looking forward to my sunset decades with great anticipation. I think that this year is a pretty good foreshadowing of where my interest in perfumes is heading. I do plan to do a pretty significant downsize in the next year. I'm going to have to curate my bottles ruthlessly and only keep those that will be worn and reworn for the next several decades. But I will never, ever stop smelling and discovering. So, samples and exploration will always be part of the story. But I think fewer full bottles will be crossing my doorstep. I have no plans whatsoever to stop making perfume videos. This has been one of the most enjoyable creative outlets I've ever engaged in. So, as long as you don't mind hearing me yap about perfumes, I plan to continue to do that into the foreseeable future. So, there we have it, a little get to know me video through the lens of scent. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for spending your time here with me. I would love to hear about some of the signature scents or the scents that were important to you throughout different phases of your life if you have any. So please do share that down in the comments. I love chatting perfumes with everyone. It's my favorite part of having this YouTube channel. So I really look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again for watching. And thanks to all of my new subscribers. I really appreciate you being here. And thanks again to Nikki for mentioning my channel and sending so many lovely people my way. And thanks again, Annie, for the inspiration for this video. I hope everyone has a really great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.